to answer any questions maybe you didn't get a chance to ask in class today. So I've got the preview of the online review pulled up here. And I'm just going to go through these and give you some tips and reminders. I'm going to go kind of quick. I'm not going to write anything down. The majority of this can just be done in Desmos. So I'll be pulling up Desmos and showing you all that as well. So this one just asks, what are the two solutions to this quadratic? Remember that your quadratic formula will always work, whether the solutions are real or complex numbers. You can see over here in your answer choices, none of these have an I. So all of your answer choices are real numbers. So this one you don't even have to do quadratic formula here. You can simply pull up Desmos and type that equation in and find those zeros. Because remember, solutions to a quadratic are the x-intercepts or zeros. Those zeros, x-intercepts, solutions, roots, all of those terms mean the same thing. Now you'll notice when you type equals 0, you just get two vertical lines through the solutions. If you don't type the equals 0, if you type equals y, or just don't have that, just have the x side of it, then you actually see the parabola, okay? And you can still see where it crosses the x-intercept or the x-axis, where the x-intercepts are. So it kind of depends. Do you want to see the actual shape of the parabola? Or if you put equals 0, you're asking where does this equal 0? And it's just going to give you lines going through where it equals 0, which again are the same whether you type that or not. So our solutions here are -1.5 and 4. On this one, you'll notice that answer choice has an I. This one does not. This has an I. This one does not. So two of the answer choices here are real numbers. Two of them are complex or imaginary numbers. So the first thing I'm going to do is put this in Desmos and actually see, are my solutions supposed to be real or imaginary? So I can easily eliminate two answer choices. So I can see my parabola does not touch the x-axis. So my solutions are going to be complex and imaginary. So I can immediately eliminate these options that don't have an I. Now, the only difference in these two that are left are that this one is over 2 and this one is not. So what you need to remember is your quadratic formula is x is equal to -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Remember, your a is the coefficient of x squared, so that's a 1. Your b is the coefficient of x, which is +5, and your c is the constant, which is 7. So when you go to plug all of those in and simplify, when you simplify what's under the radical, it's going to look, I'm only typing the part that would be under the square root. Remember, it's x is equal to -b plus or minus the square root of, then I'm going to type b squared minus 4 times a times c. So I get a -3 under my square root. Okay, and then remember, the way that it should look is then -b is 5. And then you'll have your plus or minus. I'll just do a plus for now. Just know that that could be plus or minus the square root. And then we said that that's going to come out to -3 over 2a. Well, 2 times 1, a is a 1. 2 times 1, you can write times 1 like this. But we know that 2 times 1 is just 2. So this is what it should be. But we don't leave negatives under the radical. Notice it says undefined. That's okay because it's imaginary. That negative should come out and be written as an I in front. Now, technically, you could write that I at the end, which is what I did in a lot of our notes, but it looks like the answer choices in AWARE have the I in front of the radical, which is fine too. And just know that this symbol should be a plus or minus. I just didn't have that on my keyboard as an option to type. So this one is missing the over 2a part. This one has it. So that's our correct answer. What are the two roots? Okay. Real, real. Those are all real. So there's not even an imaginary one here. So I know this is actually going to cross the x-axis. So let me clear out all this and type in my equation. And again, you can type the equals 0 to see it as vertical lines, or you can just leave it here and actually see the parabola and know that these are the decimal answers. And then just come and type in your answer choices over here and see what are they as decimals. Which one of these matches these? Yes, you could do this with quadratic formula and not have to match the decimals, but I'm just explaining you could just work backward from your answer choices. So my first answer choice is 7, 25, 4. So 7 plus or minus, and again, I'm just going to do the plus for now. Square root of 25 over 4. Double check that I have that right. 7 plus or minus the square root of 25 over 4. That comes out to, I could have told you that without looking. Square root of 25. 25 is perfect square. That's going to come out to 5. That's an integer value, not a decimal. So that's not it. So let's try -7 and 73. Okay, so let's see if this matches one of our decimals. Ooh, close, but no, it has the wrong sign here. Okay, so not that one. -7 and 25. I don't think that's going to work, but let's change this to a +7. And that does match here. And then if I change this to the minus, it will match the other decimal. So the plus gives me this 0, and the minus there gives me this 0. So that's our answer. It's the one with the +7 plus or minus the square root of 73 over 4. And again, you could actually plug A, B, and C into quadratic formula and simplify to get you there as well. But when it's multiple choice, you can just work backward from your answer choices. So here's another one where some of the answer, all of the answers are imaginary, so I don't even need to bother checking. If it crosses the x-axis, it must not if all of our choices are imaginary. So I'm going to plug in to quadratic formula. Okay, so remember it's going to be -b. Now our b is negative. So -7 if you're actually writing that down. Now it's going to come out to +7, but know that you're plugging in a negative. There's a negative in the formula, so that's what negates to just a +7. And then you'll have your plus or minus, your square root, and then it'll be b squared -4, and then our a is -2, and then our c is -10. And this is all over 2a, and a is -2. That part needs to be in the fraction. There we go. So if you write it down, this is what we're looking like. Okay, but I'm going to go ahead and simplify. That's going to come out to just +7. Okay, this is going to be -4. Okay, and then you can simplify all of that. That's going to come out to -31. So this is -31 underneath. So this is what I've got, and that negative is going to come out as an I. And again, it can be written in front of the radical or at the end, but it's not under the radical anymore once we bring it out. So my answer choices, let's see if we have a 7 plus or minus 7 plus or minus the square root of 31i over, this one's over 4 and this one's over -4. So remember, it was over 2a and ours came out to -4 because a was negative. So it should be over -4. So it should be this one. That one didn't multiply the 2 times a, and neither did that one. Okay, so that's what it should have come out as. These, where you have the number line with shading, are straight Desmos problems. Remember, I showed you just type the inequality as you see it. So x squared minus 4x is greater than -3. It's going to give you a visual of the solution over here. So the shading is the solution. So it's everything left of 1 and right of 3. So let's see, left of 1 here it is. So left of 1 and right of 3. We're just finding the one that matches what Desmos shows. And notice these were all open circles, and Desmos showed us that they should be open circles because it showed a dashed line. It would be a solid line if those were supposed to be solid points. The graph of the solution, okay, same thing. We're just going to do this in Desmos. We've got x squared plus 16 is greater than or equal to 8x. So, ooh, this one's a little different. Keep zooming out. I don't see another point, and it's all shaded, okay? Because there's only 1 0, and it's shaded both directions from it. That means it's everything. The whole thing is shaded. It's all real numbers. So you can see there's an answer choice here that the whole number line is shaded, okay, or bold. All right, this one's asking, it says Brooke and Alex tried to solve the following system of equations. Brooke said there was only one real solution. Alex said there was 2. Who was correct and why? So we've got our quadratic, we've got our linear. Remember, we just graph these together on the same coordinate plane, and we look to see where they intersect. So we have our parabola there, and then we have our line. You can write the y equals, or you can just write the 9x plus 4, it doesn't matter. And there's our line. Ooh, that's kind of hard to tell. You can zoom out, you can zoom in. It doesn't look like it's going in the parabola. It looks like it only touches it. You can keep zooming in to see. Yeah, it's to the right, to the right, to the right. Looking at the blue line is right of the green. Just trying to see, maybe it was like a trick of the eye. Yeah, it's still to the right. You can, yeah, it only touches it. It's a tangent line. Okay. And you can zoom out here better and see, and you can actually click on and find where is that. You can't, I need to zoom in a little better. There it is. So 222 is the point where they actually intersect. That's the point of tangency, if you will. So who said it was one time? Brooke said it was only once. And you can see it's at 222. That's the correct answer. Okay, they do not cross each other. Alex's other solution was at 0,4. They do not cross at 0,4. That you don't even have to zoom in to see. 0,4 is here. They are not intersecting at that point. So that is definitely not right. 8. All right, so this is similar. We've got a system. We've got a quadratic and a linear, but our linear is actually just a constant. It's just y equals k. And they're asking which of these values, which of these answer choices could we plug in for k so that this system only has one solution. So I'm going to type in my quadratic. And they've got this one in vertex form, which it doesn't matter. We still just type it in as we see it. Ooh, I've got a lot going on over here. Sorry. And then the line, the constant, If you want, if it makes more sense to you, have y equals on both of these, go ahead and have y equals. That's fine. We've got our parabola over here, and we're just wondering y equals what? What k value would make a line that only intersects this parabola one time? Okay, so our answer choices are over here, 2 and -2, 0 and 3. So let's see, if I do 2, that intersects twice. 0, that intersects twice. 3, that intersects twice. I think the last one was -2. Haha, it intersects once at the vertex. So that's negative y equals -2 is the only one of those options that would have one solution only. All of the others would have two solutions. All right, so drag and drop the correct answer choice into the blank. All right, so fill in the blank. For a science project, Joseph launches a model rocket. They give us the function that represents the height and feet of the rocket after s seconds. Okay, we've done multiple of these in our notes. So we're going to use y instead of h of s, and we're going to use x instead of s. So I'm going to just type this in as y equals was -5x squared plus 10x plus 60. So I've got my parabola representing the path of this rocket, where we've got the height in feet for the y and the time in seconds as the x-axis. And then these are our choices that we're going to drag and drop into the blank. And the blank here is the maximum height that the rocket will reach is what? Maximum is, you're looking for the maximum, the vertex of this parabola up here. That happens at 65, because remember the y is the feet, so 65 feet. So that one we should just drag. That's it. 10, a ball is tossed into the air from a height of 80. Height h in feet, given by the function where t is the time in seconds. Maximum height for the ball in feet. This is the same question. It's just a different equation, but they're asking for the maximum height in feet again. This time it's a ball instead of a rocket. That doesn't matter. We're finding the maximum. Okay, so we're going to go and type this equation in. So this time it's -20x squared minus 40x plus 80. I do not like this because that maximum is on the negative side, which doesn't make sense. So that is probably a typo. But the maximum of this parabola is at 100, which is an answer choice. So that's just, I'll make sure the one on the test is not like that, because that, in the context of the problem, that doesn't make sense because that happened at -1 seconds. But the maximum y value was 100, which is what it was asking for. All right, so Karen is solving this quadratic. It shows her first few steps. Which equation best represents the next step for completing the square? All right, so to complete the square, we move the constant. So she's subtracted the 4 from both sides to get it over here. So now we've just got our x terms. Remember, this is where we would do the plus blank on both sides. And we're trying to create a perfect square trinomial. You have to think back. It's been a little while. To complete the square, it's b divided by 2 squared. So our b is -8. So you're having to do -8 divided by 2, which is -4, squared. -4 squared is 16. So we should be adding 16 to both sides. And you can see your answer choices all have the same format, where they've got a plus something on both sides. Okay, but it's 16. That something should be 16. B divided by 2 squared is what you add to both sides in that step of completing the square. Which inequality represents the solution? Okay, so this is another one where we can just graph the inequality. So x squared plus 8 is greater than or equal to 12. Now this time your answer choices aren't number lines, so it's not a picture answer choice. Okay, get to the x-axis here, but that's okay. So it's to the left of -2 and to the right of 2, and these are solid lines, so they're included. So your solutions can be less than -2, or they could be greater than +2. So that one just says greater than 2. That's only half of the answer. That one says less than or equal to negative. That's only half the answer. Here's the one that has both. It could be less than -2 or greater than +2. The way this last answer choice is written, the X is in the middle. It's saying it's greater than -2 and less than 2. That's when the shading is in the middle. You'll have an or when the shading is to the left and right of those two values. Here's another system. Again, you are just graphing your quadratic and your linear together and seeing where do they intersect. It's my parabola. There's my linear. This is not what we're looking for. That's your intercept. We're looking for where the parabola and the line intersect, which is at -1, -1, and 6, 6, which is that choice there. That one only had them individually. This one said they don't cross at all. They cross at both of those. So you need to make sure you select both of those. CCSD Basketball League has a season that consists of 72 games. The equation below represents the relationship between the number of games, or excuse me, the number of teams in the league, X, and the total number of games played during the season. So the number of teams is X. So X number of teams, and they're asking us how many teams are in the league. So they're asking us to solve for X. So this is just a quadratic, and they're asking you to solve. So solving quadratics means finding the x-intercept. So I'm going to show you if you type it in just as it's written. That's where you get just the vertical lines at your solutions. Now, does it make sense for there to be a negative number of teams in a league? No, it does not. In the context of the problem, the only answer that makes sense is this positive one at 9. Now, if you don't like that, where it's just vertical lines, you want to see the actual parabola, go ahead and solve this, get it set equal to 0. So that 72 would need to be subtracted over. So it would end up being -72 on this side. Now you can see it as an actual parabola, but you get the same solutions, where the -8 does not make sense. The only one that makes sense here is the 9. That's it. All right, I hope that was helpful. Let me close that out and stop the video. And you'll need to come ready for that test tomorrow with your laptops charged.